Open your Bible to Zephaniah. And so we have been really noticing the pattern. Okay, so for the regulars, what is the pattern of the prophets? Remember? Judgment, blessing. Sometimes in the same verse. Judgment, blessing. Judgment, blessing. So we'll see that again tonight. This is no secret. It's just all over from Isaiah all the way to the Italian prophet Malachi. So there are several ways to outline the book of Zephaniah, which means hidden by the Lord. Probably that's what it means. That's the best guess. Some people divide the book into 3 parts, some 2, and I just put everybody's together and come up with my own. That's usually what I do that way. I'm not plagiarizing one person, but many commentators. So it's the day of Yahweh's wrath and hope, or better, rejoicing. This is going to really be encouraging. Some of the prophets ended pretty bad, didn't they? Like Nahum is going to really, God in Nahum is going to put it on the Ninevites. But even though we will see some really devastating day of the Lord stuff, that's a technical Greek term, stuff, there's a lot of hope. And it goes back to the covenants. God made a covenant with Abraham, David, a priestly covenant, and the new covenant. And so he is going to make sure it happens. He's ordained it to happen. Where's the flipper? There it is. I don't know what the Apostle Paul did without a PowerPoint. Can I see it on that screen? Thank you. Okay, so you're used to this map. Every week we have this map, and we highlight the next prophet we're looking at. So this is the last of the 12, ninth of the 12. The last 3 are going to be what's called post-exilic, which means after the exile. The exile has been promised, foretold, threatened in all the prophets. The 10 tribes went to Assyria. In what year? 722. And the southern 2 tribes, Israel and Judah, are going to go into Babylon in 586. Actually, they'll do it in 3 steps, beginning in 605, and then the final deal is 586. So Habakkuk, remember last week, he was all about Babylon. The other prophets were all about Assyria. And Judah should have listened and watched and learned what happened to the 10 brothers in the north was going to happen to them. Did they learn? No. They got worse. And in their worseness, did I make that up? Yeah, I think so. In their worseness, God still gives hope. The compassion of God is incredible in these prophets. So we see where Zephaniah, he lived about the time of Jeremiah. Nahum and Habakkuk, they probably knew each other. And probably most of his prophecy is around 622. So this is 10 years before Nineveh is going to fall to the Medes and the Babylonians. So the Assyrians were the big bad boys for 500 years. They got a break with Jonah. Remember Jonah? And they repented. Jonah wished he would have had Nahum's message that Nineveh is going to fall. Well, empires don't last forever. And the reason we learn about these is because of their impact on Israel. That's the whole reason that we read about these world empires, because of their impact on Israel. So Assyria is going to go by the wayside. The Medes and the Babylonians hooked up, and they took Nineveh. But the Babylonians are going to get Egypt, Assyria, and the Medes, and become the world empire in 605 at the Battle of 609, I think it was, in the Battle of Carchemish. So that's where we are. Look at this sheet. We won't study it, but it was one of the best king maps I've seen. And I'm not, some dates are off by a couple years and things like that, or others propose different years. But this is really close. If you look down on the left-hand side or the right-hand column, and you see all the kings, the good and the bad and the in-betweens, but you can see all the way over on the bottom right, Habakkuk and Zephaniah, they're prophesying during the days of Josiah. And you remember, who was the bad king of Judah? Manasseh. He was really bad. Hezekiah's son, and he was really bad. And then Josiah, there's a short-lived king, one of his sons, Ammon, only 2 years. And then Josiah, he starts to have reforms. He finds the law, he reads it, and he's taking out the high places. But the nation was just too far gone. I mean, the psyche, the ethos, it was just too far gone. Even his reforms weren't going to change it. The sin was so embedded into the people. You know that verse? The sins of the fathers go to the fourth generation. It's not because one generation is punished for the sins of the fathers, because everyone dies because of their own sins. The problem is it takes generations to root out the sin. How long do you think it'd take to root out the sin of America right now? You can have some reforms, but to get deep, that's a miraculous revival, if that happens. Okay, so this is a good chart I stumbled on. Okay, now, Zephaniah, the day of God's wrath and rejoicing. There's devastation, which means there's a need for salvation. God has to intervene, or this thing's over even sooner than 586. There's a purification, a call for salvation, and the last chapter is really the new covenant given to Israel and Israel's restoration. That's really what's going to happen. You'll see the new covenant. We've been seeing that in the prophets, haven't we? I'm going to give you a new heart, circumcised. It's not just in Jeremiah 31. It's all over the place. So, I think I have a page like this. You can see how the whole book is formed. This is my outline here. And in the middle, chapter 2, verses 1 through 3, is the call for repentance. In the beginning, we have coming judgment on the earth, the entire earth, and Judah. But look at the end, coming restoration of Judah, Israel, and actually Jerusalem and the world too. So that's the layout of the book. So let's just begin. I'm working with two little outlines here. You see the blueprint? That's the outline I just showed you before. And then off to the side, there's these little subsets. You can see the structure of some of the paragraphs, okay? So we just typically, on these shorter books, we'll just read through it and make comment. Any questions yet? That's a little bit of background. All right. Here we go. You have the prescript or the superscription, which is the word of the Lord, came to Zephaniah, the son of Cush. Now notice, there are 4 generations mentioned, and he goes all the way back to Hezekiah. He's related to the good king Hezekiah. And we don't ever see that. It's the only time where you go back 4 generations to a prophet. He wants you to know he's connected to royalty. He's part of that royal line. And he's the great-grandson of King Hezekiah. He's the last good king. And even the good kings weren't the best. Okay? So now, the book starts at verse 2. The coming judgment upon the earth and Judah. So notice I have far and near. And again, for those of you who are new, this is typical, really, really, really typical. Did I say very typical of the prophets to talk about something that's going to happen near, but it's also going to happen in the distance. So when you have the words in that day, the day of the Lord, on that day, in those days, days are coming, what do we call that? What do we call it, class? The prophetic wink. The prophetic wink. In that day, that means way out there. So again, God's not tricking us. You don't have to be like a scholar to figure. It's just an obvious pattern. It's just an obvious, because things that happen near did not totally exhaust the prophecy. There was more to come later. All right. So the far day of the Lord, the day of Yahweh, and this is 2 Peter 3, it's the second coming because you can tell by the language. I will completely end all things from the face of the ground. Has that happened yet? We're still here. That is like when the earth melts. I mean, this is the big time coming of the day of the Lord. It could even refer to the end of the millennium, if you're like me, a premillennialist, when everything melts. I will end man and beast. I will end birds of the sky. It's going back to creation. He created these things. He's going to end them. It's kind of the same language here. The fish of the sea and all the wicked, I will cut off man from the face of the ground. So this is, what would you call that? This would be a far prophecy. So the Lord is saying this through Zephaniah because it's a wake up. If he can end all things, who else can he end? Judah. Judah's the sinners here. They're the sinners here. So now you have the near day of Yahweh. And what was the other prophet that talked so much about the day of the Lord? Joel, the day of the Lord, the awesome day of the Lord. It's near, it's coming. The great and awesome, terrible day of the Lord. It was all over Joel. I would say as a percentage, Zephaniah is more about the day of the Lord than even Joel is. And Joel is known as the day of the Lord, but you'll see. So I will stretch out my hand against Judah and Jerusalem, the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So what he's doing is now I can do this, but here's the primary target. Samaria and the 10 tribes used to be the primary target in the other prophets, right? But now they're gone. They were gone a while back, 100 years ago. Judah didn't learn. Now they're the primary targets. Yahweh, who can end all things, has his sight set on Judah and Jerusalem. Oh. Can you imagine Jeremiah, Habakkuk, and Zephaniah preaching this in Jerusalem? No wonder a lot of prophets were killed and sawn in two and burned. This would not go well on the prosperity gospel channels, would it? No way. And in so doing, remember, the point of this is to restore his people. Purge them, punish them, restore the nation. That's who it's directed against. So I will stretch out my hand against Judah and Jerusalem and cut off the remnant of Baal from this place. There were still remnants of idolatry. Man, it's hard to believe that they had not learned what happened to Samaria in the north. The names of the idolatrous priests. In all these prophets, the sub-target is prophets, false prophets, idolatrous priests, corrupt officials, because the leaders set the tone for the nation. That's why you don't want a democracy. See, you come from evil people, come evil leaders. Oh, let me go somewhere else. So they want these kind of leaders, right? That's the kind of leaders they want. And that's the kind of leaders God has given them. And those who worship on the housetops, the host of heaven, this is astrology. This sounds like our newspaper. Oh, we don't have newspapers today, but scrolling through the news cycle, right? This is us. This is most nations. And those who worship and swear to Yahweh and yet swear by Milcom, or that's another word for Molech. That's syncretism. They're going to the temple. Oh, Yahweh, we love you. And then let's go over here and let's sacrifice a baby to Molech. It's not either or. It's both. They're doing both. Now you say, well, we would never do that. Well, we do. We come to church and worship. What do we do during the week, So God is watching. And the priests, the prophets, they're all allowing this, if not encouraging it. So this day of the Lord is going to be hard on the earth eventually. But in the meantime, it's going to be really hard on Jerusalem. The expulsion of the wicked in verse 6, and those who have turned back from following Yahweh. These are the complacent, the indifferent. Oh, I don't really want to follow him today, and I don't really need to inquire of Yahweh today. So they're just complacent. So from top to bottom, there's a day of the Lord for them. And you can see how structurally it is. I will completely end. I will cut off. Judah and Jerusalem become the primary targets. In the near day of the Lord, the near judgment, I'll cut off the Baal worship and the astrologers and the complacent. Okay. So it's pretty straight up. Pretty straight up. All right. Now this B here. The coming judgment on the wicked in Jerusalem. The proximity of the day of the Lord. Be silent. Notice in verse 11, wail. Which is it? Yes. Shut up and cry. That's how bad it is. Be silent before the Lord Yahweh, for the day of the Lord is near. For Yahweh has prepared a sacrifice, and he has set apart his guests. This is really graphic imagery. I mean, he's going to cut them up. What do you do with an animal, a sacrifice? You cut them up. And there is an element, I think there's an element of purging with this whole imagery. It's kind of like in Revelation 19, that Armageddon, the great battle of God, it's called the sacrifice because it's a purging of the world, plus it's pretty gory. So graphic imagery. So it's close for them. And even in Lamentations, Jeremiah, as he watches Jerusalem go down, he's saying, this is the day of the Lord. So you can have a near day of the Lord. You can have the technical far day of the Lord when Messiah comes. So here, Now we're at the near day again. Then it will be on the day of Yahweh's sacrifice, there it is again, I will punish the princes and the king's sons and all who clothe themselves with foreign garments. So they were dressing as dignitaries. So in other words, these are the upper class. Maybe even dignitaries coming in. I will punish on that day all who leap on the temple threshold. More than likely, that means those who are crossing into the king's house, places they're not supposed to be, or more than that, crossing into Yahweh's house where they're not supposed to be. It's kind of a tricky statement. But obviously, it's wrong, what they're doing. So he's going to cut off the officials, punish the deceivers in that day. There will be the sound of the cry from the fish gate. That's north, facing Galilee. That's where you bring the fish from Galilee in, that north gate. And a wail from the second quarter. Even today, Jerusalem is divided up into quarters. So that's where that fish would have been brought in and processed. Verse 11, wail, O inhabitants of, the word mortar means to pound, or probably this valley where a lot of commerce took place, which was right beside Jerusalem. On two sides, you had the Tyropian Valley, and then on the other side, you had the Kidron Valley. So God is being very specific. By the way, that's why we read the Bible literally, grammatically, historically, and geographically. Can't spiritualize this stuff away. This happened to them. It was going to happen, and it did. And even all the people of Canaan, you know the word Canaan means merchant? You know that? Because, like John said last week, Israel was set up to be missionaries without ever leaving. Because all the roads through the ancient Near East went through Israel. So all they had to be was godly, and everybody would ask them, who's your God? But instead of witnessing, they would adopt the foreign gods. And that merchant idea is what's behind all of this. All who weigh out the silver and gold. So you got the bankers involved, the IRS, everybody. But anyway. And it will be at that time. There's the prophetic wink. Now this is going to be close. The near at that time, I will search Jerusalem with lamps. Man, how would you like to be hiding under a chair and Yahweh's going like this? Gotcha. With his flashlight. You can't hide. That's the point. Any dark corner, Yahweh's going to get you. And Yahweh was going to get them. No one could hide. And I will punish the men who are stagnant in spirit. Actually, that word means like something that's fermented, it's useless. Does that remind you of anything? Like rotten fermented, yeah. It's no longer good. How about Laodicea? You're no good anymore. You're not hot, so we can't use you for the hot stuff. You're not cold. In other words, you're useless. That's them. Remember, we say every week, there's nothing new in the Bible. It's just something, it's the same thing said different ways. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. They weren't doing it. We just get the details here. They say in their hearts, Yahweh will not do good or evil. I can't even hardly read that as a quote. In Ezekiel, they said the same kind of thing. Actually, in Ezekiel, they said Yahweh did wrong. Here they're saying he doesn't do good or bad. He's not involved. Oy vey. The wealth will become spoiled, their houses desolate. Indeed, they'll build houses but not live in them, and they won't drink the wine of their vineyards. So this is going to happen. And in Habakkuk, same time, Habakkuk is saying, you're going to eat your children. Remember that? And they did. When the Babylonians surrounded Jerusalem, it got that bad. The same thing happened again when the Romans surrounded Jerusalem. They didn't learn. So in other words, they're going to be wiped out. That's the near day of the Lord for them. Any questions? It's going to get gooder, I promise. Because this is the way it goes. You get the bad news, then God's going to intervene because there's no hope outside of Yahweh. This is pretty bad. It's a pretty bad picture. So, now, you can see the structure of this next section while you read along with my corresponding outline. Okay. Yahweh's judgment on all nations. So it's going to go to near, and then far judgment. Near, verse 14, the proximity of the day of the Lord is coming here. Near is the great day of Yahweh, near and coming very quickly. That's just like Joel, same line. It's in Revelation, he's coming soon. It's not a time thing, it's an inevitable thing. You got to be ready. And look at the punishment. I think, is it 9 times the word day in this paragraph? 8 or 9 times? A day of fury is the day. By the way, Revelation borrows a lot of this imagery. So do the other prophets. This is not new to Zephaniah. The other prophets have been saying the same thing. And Zechariah and Malachi are going to say similar things too. It's the same message to a disobedient people. It's a day of trouble and distress, destruction, desolation, darkness, thick darkness, clouds. You think about those seals and those trumpets in the judgments in Revelation. That's the way these read. Darkness, destruction, clouds, gloom, loud shouting against all the cities and the high towers. Their military will not be able to help them. I will bring distress on men so they will walk like the blind because they have sinned. There's the reason. That's the middle part here. The reason for this day is because they have sinned against Yahweh. And the sin, that's a broad category. We've been reading about the details. You know, how the leaders were and how the people were corrupt and deceitful. So, here's what's going to happen. Distress on men, and then their blood will be poured out. Their silver nor their gold will be able to save them. Might as well throw the gold in the streets, because if there's no groceries on the shelves, it's no good. And that's what that means. They can't, nothing's going to deliver them. On the day of the fury of Yahweh, the earth will be devoured. In the fire of his jealousy, he will make a complete destruction, terrifying on the inhabitants, all the inhabitants of the earth. So do you see that pattern again? You have 2 patterns, judgment, blessing. We're in the judgment part now. But another pattern in the prophets is coming for Jerusalem. It's going to be there in about a decade or so. But this reads even bigger, doesn't it? It's also going to come upon all the inhabitants of the earth. So the Lord's doing 2 things through the prophets. I'm going to get you now, and I'm really going to get everybody later. Or he'll say, I'm going to get everybody later, but I'm going to get you now. That's how the prophets read. So, look at this, Joel. This was in Joel. It sounds just like what we've been reading. The day of Yahweh is near, destruction from the Almighty. Blow a trumpet. You have the same sound imagery here. Blow a trumpet on my holy mountain. The day of the Lord is coming. It's near. Yahweh gives forth his voice before his military force. The Lord has an army. Jesus, the Messiah, is the commander of hosts. He's the general, the captain, the sergeant, the president, the director, the secretary of defense of God's army. Now, you need to remember that, because when we hit Zechariah, we're going to see this army. We're going to see the army in a series of visions. God's chariots and his angels coming out of heaven to do all what's talked about here. In Joel 2, the sun will be dark. See, we read about darkness on that awesome day of Yahweh. Now, let me step over here, do a little theology. Okay, this is my position, and I believe the position of our church. This is the tribulation period. This is the day of the Lord. It sounds just like it. This is Daniel's 70th week. The world is targeted, but Jerusalem is really targeted in the awesome day of the Lord, when the Antichrist, Satan, are set loose to be God's instruments to bring some of this about. All right. Now I'm back behind the Bible again. Is that our view? Okay, thank you. Whew. That's our view. There's really no other time period. You remember the saints in Thessalonica? Are we in the day of the Lord? No, if you haven't seen this, you're not in it. Oh, whew, comfort one another with these words. Now, all of this leads to the middle part of the book, which is the call to repent. Notice the structure here. First, a call to assemble, and then a call to seek. Gather yourselves, verse 1. Gather, O nation, this is Judah, without shame. And here it is, because things are going to happen. You need to gather before the decree takes effect and the day passes like the chaff. In other words, it's going to happen really soon, this awesome day. Before the burning anger of Yahweh comes upon you, before the day of Yahweh's anger comes upon you, ditto, ditto, ditto. Again, this is the day of the Lord near. Jerusalem is going to get crushed, but it's the day of the Lord far as well. Secondly, part of repentance is seeking Yahweh. All you humble. Do the proud go to Yahweh? I don't think so. They're going to be cast out here in a few verses. The proud are going to be taken out of the land. Seek Yahweh. Seek righteousness. See, this is all over the scriptures. It's all over the Proverbs, right? Seek righteousness. Seek good. Seek the Lord. Seek humility. Perhaps you will be hidden. By the way, there's Zechariah's name, hidden of the Lord. If you seek Yahweh, if you seek righteousness, you just might be hidden in the Lord and from his wrath. That's what have I said Zechariah several times? That's what Zephaniah is all about. Brothers and sisters, fellow citizens, fellow countrymen, Israelites, fellow Jews, hide in Yahweh. He's the only hope. Because this day is coming. Obviously, a remnant always does. There's always a remnant who gets it. I'm trusting in Yahweh. I'm seeking righteousness because this place is going to burn. That's the way we live, right? We want to seek God, seek Christ, seek righteousness, be humble, seek humility because this place is going to burn eventually. Eventually. So, perhaps, but it is a promise. If you do these things, you will be hidden. Because the Lord is not going to turn away from somebody that's seeking him genuinely. Now, that's kind of near. Look at Yahweh's judgment on all the nations. There it is, back and forth. I'm going to get Jerusalem, but I'm going to get all the nations. Do you have both the near and the far day of the Lord upon Israel and her neighbors in verses 4 through 7. First, the near punishment for Philistia. You see these towns here, Gaza, Ascalon, Ashdod, Ekron. Those are all Philistine cities. And when Nebuchadnezzar came down into Israel, guess what? He got these folks. And actually, the Assyrians got these folks too. They got double whacked. Israel got double whacked. Woe to the inhabitants of the sea coast. There it is. This is the people that live along the sea. The Philistines were called sea peoples. The word of the Lord is against you, O Canaan, land of the Philistines. So Philistines were always a problem in Canaan. And so God says, I'm going to whack them. And I will make you perish so that there will be no inhabitant. So God is saying, I can do this to your enemies. I can do it to you. But as is the case, brothers and sisters, here comes the boomerang, the whiplash, judgment, and then look at this mercy thrown right in here. The far implication for Israel, someday the seacoast will be pastures. The caves for shepherds and folds for the flock. The coast will be for the remnant of the house of Judah. Someday, Judah's going to be occupying the territory of the Philistines. That's just not happened. It's not happened historically. No way, Jose, or no way, Zephaniah. They both talk about it. They will feed upon it. In the houses of Ashkelon, they're going to inhabit Philistia. Now, where is Philistia today on your modern map? Do you know? The Gaza Strip. That is Philistia. Almost the exact borders. So, you can chew on that. Someday, they're going to inhabit it. Now, again, you can't like spiritualize this and go, this is a wonderful picture of the church inhabiting the earth. That means nothing if you do that. This has to have meant what it meant to them and to any Jew reading it and to us. Because it's the day of the Lord kind of stuff. It's the day of the Lord kind of stuff. For Yahweh, their God, will care for them and restore their fortune. All right, time to sing and praise. He's just spent 2 chapters telling us how bad they are. Oh, by the way, I love them. I'm going to restore them. There's a process. He's going to purify them. I'm going to put them through the ringer. And the remnant will get all this. I mean, that's goosebump stuff. Yahweh will do it. He has to. His name's on the line. His name is on the line. So here's an oracle against Moab, Ammon, and others. So those are the people on the sea coast, and then you go on the other side of the Jordan River, you got Moab and Ammon. So he's getting people on both sides of the river. The near punishment on them, I heard a reproach of Moab and of Ammon. They have reproached my people. Remember, they were always, if somebody was attacking Israel, Moab, Edom, and Ammon, they would join in. Or sometimes they would just sit back and laugh. Quote, the prophet said they would go, aha, aha. When Israel was getting beat, they would run over, steal stuff, and then go back. And they human trafficked, you weren't here, but in Amos, these countries were human trafficking Israelites, selling them to Tyre and around the world. So God says, I'm going to get you. And he compares them to Sodom and Gomorrah. Of course, they will go to the pit. Look at verse 9. Here's another whiplash. In the middle of judgment, you got mercy. But the remnant of my people will plunder them. It's just not happened. It's just not happened. Where the Israelites have plundered and controlled the land of the Philistines and the eastern side of the Jordan, like in the days of Solomon or David. Just not happened. But it will. And the remainder of my nation will inherit them. Again, brothers and sisters, it just means what it says. Someday, in that far out day, Israel's going to inhabit Philistia and the east side of Jordan. What did we read in Nahum? they're going to inhabit Nineveh. That's never happened. Matter of fact, Nineveh was not even discovered till the 1840s. Didn't even know where it was. So these things are on the horizon for the nation. Here's another far punishment for all the nations. So that's near, and then he switches it to far. Verse 10. This they will have in return for their pride, because they have reproached and magnified themselves. Verse 11, Yahweh will be fearsome to them, for he will starve all the gods of the earth. See how it went global? It went from near to global. Yahweh will be fearsome to them, and the nations will bow down to him, everyone from his own place. Has that happened yet? No. So that's why we are futurists. We think these things, are still to happen. Now, he's attacked the Philistines in the west, the Moabites, the Ammonites on the east. Now he's going to go after the Ethiopians who are in the south. You also, Ethiopians, will be slain by my sword. Now, Ethiopia is not the Ethiopia you know today. Actually, during this time, Ethiopians controlled even Egypt and most of North Africa. So what he's saying is, I'm getting the southern countries too. And there's one left to the north. And verse 13, he will stretch out his hand against the north and cause Assyria to perish. In about 10 years from this, Nineveh is going under, according to Nahum. So west, east, south, north. Israel's going to inherit them, live in them, and the Lord's going to get them. He's going to get them immediately through Nebuchadnezzar, but he's going to get them finally in the last day. In the last day. More details about that in the rest of that paragraph. Now we're coming to the end. The coming judgment of corrupt political and religious leaders. Chapter 3. Woe to the leaders. Woe to her. Look at these descriptions. Rebellious, defiled. It's an oppressive city. It was supposed to be the holy city. The city of truth, the city of righteousness. I don't know if it ever was. But it will be. She did not draw near to her God. Her princes are like lions. They just tear people up. And then I know you think this is a description of Washington, D.C. Not so, we don't want to go there. Your judges are wolves. Your prophets are reckless, treacherous. Your priests are profane. They profane the sanctuary, the temple of God. They have done violence to the law. It's a big time upset. It's like our world, right? Now, I'm going to take a rabbit trail here, but in not too long, in just a few years, Nebuchadnezzar is going to get Ezekiel. He's going to get Daniel first in 605. And a few of his friends, they're going to Babylon. Even the righteous get hurt when God judges. The difference is we go to heaven. If there's a flood, it's not only unbelievers on the water, right? Believers are on the water too, but the difference is we go to heaven. Same here. So Ezekiel and Daniel and other godly men, they get caught up in it, but God's with them. Ezekiel, while he's in Babylon, you have to read all 48 chapters, but while he's in Babylon, the people knock on his door at his house and say, oh, it can't be that bad. The Greyhound bus is going to be here in a minute. This is a hiccup. So Ezekiel is transported in a vision to Jerusalem to see all of this. He sees the priests who have cubby holes with lockers that have idols in them in the temple. 27 leaders are out worshiping the sun at the temple door. Okay? So the point is they deserve it. But in the meantime, God says, I'm keeping a remnant. I've got a covenant. So it's really bad. But now look, verse 5, Yahweh is righteous in her midst. Oh, if they could just see it. If they could just see it. He will do no injustice. Every morning he brings his justice to light. He does not fail. Oh, can't they listen to Jeremiah and Habakkuk and Nahum and Zephaniah and just see that the Lord is righteous? All they got to do is look at their history. And all the prophets always recount the history. Remember how God brought you out of Egypt and all that. So they're just not paying attention, but the unjust knows no shame. In other words, they just do not correct themselves. It's not in them. God has to do it. So even in the midst of judgment, he's going, I'm righteous and I'm right there. All you got to do is seek me. Humble your heart and seek me. Okay. Ooh. That looked better on the computer screen than it did. I scratched that background. Now look how this changed. Verses 8 through 20 is just good stuff. It's almost too good to be true. And if it weren't for Yahweh, it would be too good to be true. Only he can pull this off. He's going to save them. Here's the near call to wait for the day of Yahweh. You know, the remnant get it. Wait. Did you hear that in Isaiah? Those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. So just wait. God's got everything in control. For the day when I rise up as a witness, indeed, my judgment is to assemble the nations. So now he's going to bring nations against them, but in the great day, he's going to bring all the nations to Jerusalem to pour out on them my indignation, my burning anger, for the earth will be devoured. So there's a little bit of near and a little bit of far there. Far. You know the wise men were firemen? Because they come from afar. Anyway. So look at this. The new covenant for the far day of Yahweh. The new covenant is when Israel's sins are forgiven and they get a heart, a spirit heart, and their stone heart is taken out. And that's exactly, and all the new covenant passages say, in that day, Israel will follow me and know my law and obey it. For then I will change them to peoples with purified lips. How does that happen, brothers and sisters? Someday, God's going to change Israel and give them purified lips. That's salvation. That's the new covenant. That all of them will call on the name of Yahweh to serve him side by side, shoulder to shoulder. It is so bad, but in the future, he's going to save them. Zechariah is coming up. We're going to find out the exact day when God saves Israel. When he stands on the Mount of Olives, the mount splits, and they look upon him whom they've pierced, and he gives them a spirit of supplication. That's repentance. That's the day when Israel's saved. Right at 11:59:59 before Jesus comes. So he's saying, I'm going to give them new lips. Is salvation, do we have anything to do with this? Does Israel have anything to do with this? No way. It's just grace. It's just sheer grace. He has promised it for a generation in the future. He's going to save them. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my worshipers, my scattered ones, will come with offerings. That's the kingdom. When Israel's saved, the Messiah's in Jerusalem, they come to him. That's the kingdom. This is not talking about the church age. Ain't no way. Just, you can't. I mean, look at the geography from Ethiopia and beyond. In that day, you will feel no shame because of all your deeds. That's forgiveness. That is forgiveness. Because you transgressed against me, I will remove from you the proud. This is that purging, that great horrible day. It's going to be hard on Israel. They're going to be purged, but those who seek and are humble, they're going to be saved. Because Yahweh's going to put it in their heart to do that. That's what he's saying. They will take refuge in the name of Yahweh. This has never happened. They rejected the Messiah the first time he came. When he comes again, they'll get a new heart and they'll accept him. They won't ever fear again. Now look at the day after the day of Yahweh, which this is the kingdom. This is the kingdom. I didn't change that, did I? Or it went back. Anyway, you see it in front of you. So what do you do when Yahweh saves and gives them, remember the geography, gives them the land of the Philistines and all the other prophets are saying, your mountains will drip with sweet wine and that's the kingdom. So what do you do? Verse 14, sing for joy, O daughters of Zion. Make a loud shout, O church. No. It's Jerusalem, Judah, Jerusalem, Israel, Zion, my holy mountain, my temple. Be glad and exult with all your heart, Jerusalem. Yahweh has taken away his judgments. He's done judging them. Woo! See, he wasn't done after the Babylonians got him. Because then you had Egypt and Syria all between the testaments going up and down through their land. Then the Romans came. Then they've been dispersed. So when's this going to happen? Obviously, in the future. I hope the very near future. Look at this, verse 15. He has cleared away your enemies. Again, this is too specific to just put a brush on it and go, what a nice picture of the church age. Because we have enemies. You can't do that. In that day, it will be said of Jerusalem. It's Kleenex time, okay? This is when you cry and go, oh, he saved us. He saved Israel. Do not fear, O Zion. Do not let your hands fall limp. Yahweh, your God, is in your midst. Brothers, that's when Jesus rules and reigns in Jerusalem. There's just no other way to put it. A mighty one who will save. He's the divine warrior. He's the divine savior. He's going to split the sky, save Israel physically and most importantly spiritually, and that's the kingdom. He will, now these two lines that I underlined are just incredible. You got to think of a song for this one. I don't know. Make one up. Yahweh will be joyful over you. Now, we always think about exalting God. Did you ever think of him being joyful over you? Oh, my goodness. Obviously, this is specifically when Israel's saved, but the implication is certainly the same. He rejoices over us because we take part in the kingdom too, in a different way. He will be quiet in his love. That's a famous phrase. Remember the target audience, the worst people ever. He'll be quiet in his love. Now he's holy. He's got to do the judging part and the purifying part, but he's going to keep a people for himself. He will rejoice over you with joyful singing. Think about that. Yahweh singing over his people. Yeah, you can't fathom it, neither can I. You know, it's like when Christ is the husband and we're the bride. Did you ever think about it the other way around? We're not coming up the aisle. He's there waiting for us. Oh, I'm singing because the bride's coming. In this case, Yahweh's singing because his people now are saved. Whoa. I will assemble those who grieve, who haven't been able to do the feast, you know, because Jerusalem was all tore up. They were from you, O Zion. Behold, I'm going to deal at that time with those who afflicted you. It's amazing. This is another pattern, by the way. God will raise up a nation to punish Israel, and then he'll punish the nation because they deserve it too. All nations are wicked. I will save Tyson. I will save the lame and gather the banished. In Zephaniah, we're going to read, he's going to make the crippled like King David, and he's going to make warriors like angels of the Lord. That's how great this transformation is going to be when Christ comes. And I will turn them in their shame into praise and a name in all the earth. This is, when do all the nations know who Yahweh is? When Israel's saved. Remember, we saw that countless times, dozens and dozens of times. Then the nations will know I'm Yahweh. It's in the context of Israel's salvation. They don't know who Yahweh is yet, but they will. At that time, I will bring you in. I'll gather you. You got this whole gathering, this loving language. Give you a name and praise among the peoples of the earth. What do people say about, mention the name Israel today? What do? Those wicked people over there, they're beating everybody up, you know. No. One day they're going to be a praise in all the earth because their king's going to be there. Now, here's how the book ends. Not if, not it already happened, but when I restore your fortunes before your very cotton-picking eyes. I added that a little bit. It is what it are. It's right there. When will the nations know who Yahweh is? When he does this. To a people that don't deserve it, so that God gets all the glory. These prophets are loaded, aren't they? And you say, well, where do I fit into this? We're going to rule and reign with Christ in this very kingdom. When we come back with him and his armies. If my theology is right, and I think it is. My eschatology. So we'll participate in this. We will watch the nations know who Yahweh is from a glorified vantage point. Okay? There's no way this can be talking about the church age. I mean, you can't do it. I mean, unless you got this really, really big brush. And you go, well, all this is a nice picture of the salvation of the church. There's too many details. There's too many time indicators to make that happen. So anyway, there you go. That started off pretty ugly, but it ends up with Kleenexes. Man, God is love. He's going to save them. Here's another implication for us today. If God says he's going to save and keep, he's going to save us and keep us. Exactly. Thank you. So for you, for those who just came in, this is what we do on Wednesdays. Any questions? See, are you learning? Most Christians, and I'm going to say this kind of, generically, have no clue of what's in the prophets. Are you noticing that? I'm learning a lot. And they form systems about God and eschatology and Israelology and all that, having not read the prophets. And Revelation quotes the Old Testament, these guys, 283 times. Yeah. So, people want to know about Revelation, you better know your prophets first. And know the context. See the context? And aren't they all building on each other? Have you noticed that? They're every week, they just keep building on each other. They keep building on each other. Okay, somebody ask some questions. So while you got a little, you do? It's good to have y'all tonight.
So you're reading the 12.
The 12.
And you're learning about it. And are you using that when you're trying to help other people understand the gospel?
The question is, do I use the 12 to help other people understand the gospel? Well, not immediately. The gospel is the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, his substitutionary work on the cross for our sin. That is the gospel. But if they believe that and the Holy Spirit works into them, then we start teaching the Bible, and that this is the same God. Jesus wrote these words in the Old Testament. He's going to save Israel just like he promised he would not turn anyone away who comes to him in the New Testament. So it is who God is. This is theology 101. God is wrath. He is love. He punishes. He's so compassionate. And can you believe someday God, Yahweh and Jesus, Jesus, will rejoice over us? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.